Now before anyone asks me, yes, I do plan on having all of these reviews uploaded by the end of October. In fact, by the time I've gotten to uploading this, I've already recorded the Castlevania 3 footage. For nearly 2 years now, I've been asked to do a month of Castlevania. It's actually pretty funny looking back. You see, I originally wanted to do this October of 2009, but to my surprise, the angry video game nerd beat me to it. And if you watch me, you most likely watch the nerd, so I didn't want to seem redundant. I didn't get to do it last year because I was then swamped with college work and working long hours at my job at the same time. So I settled with Saw the video game after someone requested that I review it along with Elliot. So now that I finally have the time, let's get started with the classic series. Uncle, this one's for you. Welcome to Month of Castlevania. Now, truth be told, I wasn't really into the Castlevania series till about 7 years ago. I was familiar with the series since the 90s, but I never really gave any of the games a shot, not counting trying Super Castlevania 4 on an emulator with a keyboard back in the beginning of high school. It wasn't until one night where my uncle introduced me to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. At first, I didn't think nothing of it. I thought the game looked pretty and the voice acting hilariously entertaining, but it didn't completely pique my interest then. And then my uncle let me borrow the game for a week. Holy shit, I can't believe I missed out on this for so long. A classic case of knowing the difference between seeing the game and actually playing it. Symphony of the Night intrigued me so much that I almost immediately went back to play the older titles, starting of course with the original. So we have the original Castlevania for the Nintendo Entertainment System, developed by Konami, who would later become famous for such series like Contra, Gradius, and Metal Gear. Castlevania was originally released for the Famicom Disk System in 1986, with the NES port following about a year later. The game stars Simon Belmont, a vampire hunter belonging to the clan of Belmonts who's dedicated to destroying the evil that is Count Dracula. We won't get into the origins of the Belmont family until very later in the series, so for the time being, let's just say Dracula borrowed the family's lawnmower and never returned it, so Simon is going on a rampage to teach him a lesson. Dracula's castle is filled with all sorts of bizarre architecture. At first, you're traveling into the main entrance of the castle, only for you to be suddenly 7 miles away from it in the next level. There's underground caverns, a dungeon of some sort, a clock tower, and finally the grand stairway to Dracula himself. I wonder just what the hell the blueprints looked like when this place was constructed, but if I had to guess, it would probably look something like this. As Simon, you need to guide him through the level, defeat the boss at the end, and collect this red orb. About as basic as you can get, but this was pretty much the norm when it was first released. Plastered in just about every wall in the game are candles that Simon can break to collect power-ups such as sub-weapons, or hearts which act as ammunition for your sub-weapons. No, the hearts aren't health. Instead, Simon can restore health by eating pot roast, which can usually be found inside breakable walls and whatnot. Yeah, we're all thinking, why would Simon even consider eating something that came out of a wall, but come on, just look at the thing. It looks fucking delicious. Anyway, Simon's main method of attack is his trusty whip/mace/flail the vampire killer. What an appropriately named weapon. But anyway, if you're wondering why I can't decide what weapon the vampire killer is, it's because with the proper power-ups, Simon can upgrade his weapon from a leather whip to an extended flail, dealing massive damage. The sub-weapons that Simon can collect come in 5 varieties. There's the dagger, which really isn't all that fascinating honestly and not very fun to use. The axe, which can be useful at times but a little unwieldy other times. The holy cross, the boomerang. Yeah, that's what it was called back in the day. Can't have that pesky religion getting into our video games. Well, to their credit, it does behave like a boomerang and is actually pretty damn useful. But none of these weapons come close to the awesomeness that is the stopwatch and holy water. The firebomb. Sorry, religious censorship again. The stopwatch can stop enemies dead in their tracks, allowing you to kill them with ease, or just bypass them safely. It even works on some bosses, like the giant Medusa head. Poor bastard doesn't stand a chance. The only problem with the stopwatch is that it uses hearts like nothing else, about 5 per use. But it doesn't get any better than with the firebomb. Not only does it cost only 1 heart per use, but it can stop enemies dead in their tracks, letting you whip away like a madman. Combined with the power of a double or triple shot, which allows Simon to throw more than one sub-weapon at a time, just about everything in your path will meet certain death, including death himself. Die, motherfucker! Yeah! Okay, so you're thinking, well, it seems Simon can get pretty well equipped for his adventure. This game is probably a breeze. No. Let me put it bluntly. Castlevania is hard. Fucking hard. One of the most difficult games you'll play on the NES. Now you're probably thinking, well, what causes it to be hard? Is it the enemies, the level design, the controls? All of the above. Let's start with the small stuff. Castlevania is filled with all sorts of creatures. First, there's assholes like hunchbacks, or fleamen as some of you would know them as. Not only are they fast, but their patterns are also completely random. I never know when they're gonna tackle me or just jump over me, so I almost always get hit by these fuckers. So close to the exit, oh god! Then there's Medusa heads. Like the slicers in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, this enemy is usually a pain in the ass because of their placement. If you can keep the pace up, they can actually be pretty easy to dodge, but most of the time that's just not the case. Shit! Oh, okay, well that actually— oh, fuck. Oh, you motherfucker! Then there's enemies that just take fucking forever to kill, like these bone pillars. It takes about 5 hits with a fully powered whip, so when you run into a few in a row, you can guarantee your thumb is gonna hurt at the end of the level. They also shoot fireballs. Fuckers. Axe armors aren't much better, in fact, they're worse. They take about 9 hits to kill and throw axes at 2 different altitudes. It's like a damn mini-boss, to be honest. And you run into so many at the 5th stage, god. Really, a lot of enemies have the potential to make you pull your hair out. Skeletons that throw bones, birds that drop off hunchbacks, or black crows that just don't know when to get out of your fucking hair. Goddamn bats, hard mode is jam-packed with these little bastards. The only enemies I never have a hard time with are the zombies in the first level of the game and the Black Panthers. Jump, and you'll never see it again. Now when I say difficult level design, I'm really talking about those damn stairs. When climbing them, Simon moves like a freaking tank with no way to jump up or off the stairs. Because of this, alongside a restricted whip attack, defending yourself is next to impossible. Go ahead, try and get past the clock tower area without getting hit by those goddamn birds. You just can't. And sometimes shit like this can happen. What the fuck? But the absolute worst thing, the main reason what makes Castlevania so difficult, is the control. It's incredibly stiff. Simon has only one type of speed, strutting, the Belmont strut, and he does it so well. Swinging the whip feels pretty good, but dear lord does jumping suck. You can't change your direction in mid-air, so when you make a jump, your ass is going forward until you hit solid ground. If that wasn't enough, Simon also suffers from another problem that plagued many NES games back in the day: knockback. My god, the knockback. Upon coming into contact with any hazard, Simon will jump back 5 feet. I'm guessing because it's the first time in his life he's ever felt pain and doesn't know how to properly react to it. Combined with tiny platforms and numerous bottomless pits, you're gonna die plenty of times because of knockback and poor jumping controls. Son of a bitch! The bosses are just the icing on the cake. They start off deceptively easy, making you think all the bosses are just as easy, but no! The shit hits the fan as soon as you run into Igor and Frankenstein's monster. Then there's the Grim Reaper himself, who I can admittedly never beat without the firebomb along with the triple shot. Trying to beat this asshole with just a whip is next to impossible. You can see that I'm raping them with the firebomb, but if it isn't the boss themselves, it's the process of getting to these guys without losing your upgrades. It's agonizingly painful. The Grim Reaper stage pretty much requires that you get past the entire level without dying or without losing your sub-weapon. Yeah, that's another thing that bothers me. If you collect a sub-weapon while you already have one equipped, it gets replaced, with no way to get the previous weapon back. No amount of words can explain the frustration of losing your triple shot firebomb by collecting the fucking dagger weapon. But as I was saying earlier, having any sort of fair chance with the later bosses pretty much requires you to do a perfect run through the respective stage. Thankfully, though your lives are limited, you do have unlimited continues, so you can retry as many times as you like, assuming you have the patience. There's also times where you can get power-ups like the invincibility potion, which makes you invulnerable for a few seconds, and the crucifix, which wipes out all the enemies on the screen. When you see these items, make sure to pick them up. Bam! Awesome. Now, even though the process is difficult, there is no better feeling than defeating a boss that gave you such a hard time. But then, at the top of the grand stairway, we have Dracula himself, sporting a bright red cloak and a very large nose. Dracula loves to teleport and spam fireballs. In fact, that's all he does. But goddamn does he hurt, and you can only attack his head. Sometimes you think you have the pattern down, but there are times where he intentionally delays his attack, causing you to jump prematurely into his fireballs. But after dealing enough damage, you actually decapitate the bastard, causing him to transform into this thing. With the use of the firebomb, the fight isn't actually that hard, but again, his damage output can catch you off guard, and his size makes him nearly impossible to dodge when you're trapped in a corner. But with one final whip attack, Dracula explodes with a fiery explosion, and by collecting the final red orb, you've finished Castlevania. The castle crumbles and the credits roll, probably the most bizarre credit sequence you'll ever see. All the names are parodies of famous actors in the horror genre, though frankly, whenever I see the name Mix Shreks, I can't help but think of Count Orlok practicing the DJ business. Now, even though the game can be the pinnacle of difficult gameplay, I can still see why the original is considered a classic. I can't really explain it, but I find something very rewarding in defeating a stage or a boss that gave me such a hard time. The feeling of triumph you achieve when you collect that final red orb is intoxicating and makes you forget all the hardships you just dealt with. The music definitely helps too. This game's soundtrack is amazing, even to this day. It just fits so well with the gameplay and helps enrich the experience. Vampire Killer, Wicked Child, Heart of Fire, damn it, the entire soundtrack is awesome, and definitely one of the game's highest points. The game may be hard, but to me, that's what defines an old school Castlevania. The control hasn't aged well, and the enemy selection could be less frustrating, but destroying bad guys with the whip and being able to use sub-weapons properly is extremely satisfying. And combined with the creepy atmosphere, fantastic music, and unlimited continues, Castlevania is an NES game that every gamer should at least try. It's certainly not for everybody, but it has a certain charm that I think most people can appreciate. With that said, I'll give the original title a 7.0 out of 10. A hardcore game for a hardcore gamer. Okay, so we're off to a frustrating yet satisfying start. But does the difficulty only get harder from here, or does the game ease up as we go along? Well, next time we meet for a month of Castlevania, we're looking at Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest for the NES. Oh boy.